headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador. I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. A court in Ecuador has ordered that the former Ecuadorian president, Rafael Correa, should stand trial for his alleged role in the supposed kidnapping of a former assemblyman. Correa took to Twitter to reject the judge's decision, calling it political persecution. The former president has called on Ecuadorians not to worry about him, but worry about their homeland. Judge Daniela Camacho is accusing the former president of being the mastermind behind the 2012 kidnapping of former opposition lawmaker Fernando Balda. Correa was also being accused of criminal association, but Camacho dropped these charges as the prosecution reportedly could not find enough evidence. The authorities have announced that this trial will remain open until Correa returns to Ecuador or is arrested abroad. And ahead of the ruling, supporters of Correa gathered outside the Court of Justice in the capital Quito. They believe former president is a victim of political persecution, just like other progressive Latin American leaders. And in an exclusive interview with Telesur, Rafael Correa spoke about what he calls the political persecution of himself and of former members of his government.
I don't expect anything from Ecuadorian justice. I surprise myself at just how calm and patient I am. The fight will go and play out on the international arena. Ecuador is looking foolish on an international level. Interpol hasn't taken any notice of the request for my arrest. But this will all change once the political landscape in Ecuador changes. This is all political maneuvering to prevent me from participating in Ecuadorian politics, especially in the upcoming local elections of 2019.
Correa also spoke about what he calls a plot against his former vice president, Jorge Glas.
If I were living in Ecuador, I would be in prison, just like Jorge Glas. I still have great solidarity for Jorge, who was trusted in the Ecuadorian legal system. We all believe in it, without knowing the scope of the plot that was being planned behind the scenes. He's in prison due to the Odebrecht scandal. Let the world know, not one of those who confessed to being involved in that case were ever brought to trial. Those who paid people off, they are not even under investigation, because they made a deal to steal the vice presidency from Glas and they walk away free. Jorge trusted in Ecuadorian justice and now has been in prison for nearly a year, but he's a brave man of integrity. And now he's on hunger strike because authorities decided to move him to a maximum security prison as a response to an unrelated case of another former member of my government who fled the country.
Glas has been hospitalized after 17 days on hunger strike. His condition is confirmed as stable. Denise Herrera with the details.
Ecuador's former vice president Jorge Glas has been rushed to Carlos Andrade Marine Hospital in Quito after being on hunger strike for over 2 weeks. Doctors treating him have confirmed his condition is stable.
For reasons of confidentiality, we cannot give details. Mr. Jorge Glas entered yesterday at 1:30 a.m. One of the doctors who did the evaluation in La Tacunga decided to transfer him to be safe.
At a press conference, members of the Citizen Revolution movement confirmed they had seen Glas and described his situation in jail as inhumane.
His cell is for him alone. In the early days, he didn't have a bathroom. He had to go in a jar and in a bottle. His cell has bars, so they put up cardboard to keep the cold out. On the window, there's blue fabric. The conditions are not the best.
According to the government, Jorge Glas was moved to the maximum security prison in the city of La Tacunga due to security concerns. But the Citizen Revolution movement says they have yet to see the report in which these concerns are explained. They stand firm in their belief that the government is violating his rights.
The imprisonment of Jorge Glas is illegal and unfair. We have asked many times for evidence of what Glas is being accused of. Now he can't defend himself because he's in jail. Even a person close to the government has said that he's in jail for political reasons.
Last December, Jorge Glas was sentenced to the 6 years in prison under charges of being the mastermind behind a plot to receive $5 million from Brazilian construction company Odebrecht. However, his legal team has continued to say there is no evidence linking Glas to the case. They still hope to prove his innocence. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
And now to the U.S., the White House has withdrawn the press badge of CNN journalist Jim Acosta, who hours before was confronted by President Donald Trump in a tense press conference.
That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN. Right. And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
that's enough.
I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Mr. President, that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have...
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
CNN has replied by accusing Trump of being a threat to democracy. The news organization says the press pass suspension was done in retaliation for challenging questions. The country deserves better. Jim Acosta has our full support, the cable network said. And a day after the congressional elections, Attorney General Jeff Sessions has been forced out of office by President Donald Trump. Sessions was criticized by the president over his decision to step aside from the investigation into Russia's role in the 2016 presidential race. Trump announced that Sessions' chief of staff at the Department of Justice, Matthew Whitaker, will replace him as the new acting Attorney General. Representatives of the migrant caravan in Mexico City are hoping to meet President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador this Thursday. While migrants say they are scheduled to do so, the government is yet to confirm the meeting. Hundreds participated in a session where they discussed when they will leave the Mexican capital and the routes they will take to reach the U.S. Some migrants said they wished to stay longer in Mexico City, while others wanted to continue the journey to the U.S. as soon as possible. The first migrant caravan had a rest stop in Mexico City after a 20-day journey from Central America in search of a better life. Volunteers are helping them before they continue on to the U.S. border.
Several volunteers were on hand at a shelter in Mexico City built specifically to house asylum seekers and migrants from the caravan. The first group to receive help are the children, since according to UNICEF, around 2,300 minors are part of the migrant group.
We first bond with them. We talk and try to get closer to the children so they can trust us. They have told us that they have been walking for days now, that they haven't eaten properly, and that they don't have shoes. They just want to play.
Volunteers are also on hand to provide psychological help. It's no doubt the journey of more than 20 days has affected the migrants.
We have helped people under a lot of stress and anxiety. They are grieving their loss, the fact they left their country behind, as well as their family members, and in some cases, their children.
Those who were forced to leave their countries are all too familiar with the risks of traveling through Mexico, a territory plagued by violence.
I was told about the danger that women face, that some are kidnapped, and about organ trafficking, but I have to be strong.
For those who joined the migrant caravan, the majority from Honduras are not forgetting the reasons why they left their home country. Cesar, for example, says he was repressed by the state.
It happened when our president, Juan Orlando Hernández, was re-elected. He repressed the people with the help of security forces. That is why we are running away.
The caravan is set to leave Mexico City after everyone rests from 20 days of their treacherous journey before pushing onto the United States. Some are trying to regularize their immigration status.
Children, part of the migrant caravan currently in Mexico City, are showing signs of anguish and psychological distress, this according to a UN spokesperson. UNICEF has warned that many migrant children traveling in the Central American caravan are also expressing fears of violence. They also have fear of being separated from their families.
And in Mexico, the UN Children's Fund has warned that many children traveling with the migrant caravan are showing signs of anguish, psychosocial distress. In certain cases, children are expressing fear of violence or separation from their families, while other children are finding it difficult to engage in play, recreational activities, organized activities by UNICEF staff on the ground. The agencies and its partners are quickly scaling up support for psychosocial intervention to reach the children in need. Psychosocial support can help lower the impact on children of having to abandon their homes and endure grueling travel conditions.
But on the other side, U.S. troops are reinforcing the southern border ahead of the migrant arrival. Soldiers have installed new barbed wires, while the Pentagon refuses to give a price tag for the whole operation. Around 4,800 soldiers have been deployed. Some 1,100 of the troops are in California, another 1,000 in Arizona, and 2,600 in Texas. President Donald Trump says that up to 15,000 troops could serve in the operation. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Friday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The 17th meeting of the ALBA-TCP Alliance will take place in Nicaragua this Thursday. Country members of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America will discuss political and socioeconomic issues. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, and Venezuela's Foreign Affairs Minister Jorge Glas arrived in Managua to attend the meeting.
The Bolivarian Alliance, the People's Alliance, has to unite, not only to resist, but also to move forward. This is why we are here, to move forward for the union and integration of our people.
A group of 176 Haitian migrants have returned to their homeland from Chile. They are the first to return in a series of humanitarian flights described by migrant groups as forced deportations. The initiative requires those leaving to sign a declaration that they will not return for 9 years and also asks them to take any immediate family with them. Over 1,000 people have signed up for the flights back to Haiti so far. Around 150,000 Haitians have immigrated to Chile in the past 2 years.
We Haitians are the most humiliated because there are foreigners in Chile other than us, but the Chilean authorities decided to make an airplane available for us to return. So, those Haitians that didn't work, that couldn't do anything, voluntarily returned. In any case, there's no place where you can't die.
Hospital workers from all over Peru are on strike to demand that the government increase their budget. More on this report.
They left the hospitals where they work to take to the streets and restarted the strike they suspended 8 months ago. The Unique Federation of Health Workers, or FENUTSA, say that the government of Martín Vizcarra's neoliberal policies jeopardized the health sector.
Vizcarra follows the policies of the former president and keeps fighting against Congress. Now, he's ignoring the needs of the people and the workers.
Many Peruvians are dying because we lack medical attention, medicine, hospital equipment, professionals, and technicians.
According to the union movement, there are around 100,000 workers across the country working under unconstitutional conditions. Many of them have worked for more than 20 years.
I have no labor stability. I freelance. I do this year after year and I still have to wait to take an exam in order to work with a contract. I don't have the benefits that a formal worker has. I've done this for 20 years and there are thousands of people that are waiting for the same thing.
On the first day of the strike, staff gathered outside the Ministry of Health, accusing them of trying to divide the union movement.
For the administrative staff, there hasn't been any kind of increase in the last 20 years. We'll ask the Ministry of Health to propose a re-evaluation of our work, so our rights can be enforced.
Todos los derechos que tienen los compañeros que están en la 1153.
For FENUTSA, the neoliberal policies applied in Peru are trying to weaken public hospitals to justify privatization.
Brazilian President Michel Temer has met President-elect Jair Bolsonaro to discuss the transition of power. They both have promised a fluent transition between governments. Temer handed over the symbolic key of the transition of office to his successor and invited him to go to the G20 meeting at the end of the month in Argentina. Bolsonaro will take office on January 1st.
Brazil cannot waste the knowledge of those who have gone through the presidency, and that will be useful to all of us.
Brazilian people must get together and fraternize, give each other hands for Brazilian prosperity, and I have already seen that this is exactly the position of President-elect Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro has also met Brazilian Supreme Court President Dias Toffoli in capital Brasilia. He said he will defend the independence of powers while in office. The president-elect also said he will have a good relationship with Supreme Court during his administration. But future Justice Minister Sergio Moro spoke about his differences with Bolsonaro. In the first press conference after accepting the position, Moro spoke about Bolsonaro calling social movements terrorists and his controversial gun law. Moro also said his ministry will not be used for political persecution. On Wednesday, the fourth criminal proceeding against activist Milagros Salah began in Argentina. The social leader has been deprived of her freedom since January 2016. So far, there is no firm conviction against her.
The case of the new trial against Milagros Salah is known as the shooting of Azopardo.
9 years after the case occurred, and after not having significant advances, the accused appears. His name is Paez. He was a fugitive when he was arrested. He denies the testimony of several witnesses and alleges that he was sent by Milagros Salah. Until that moment, April 2016, nobody had ever mentioned Milagros Salah in this case. That was enough to accuse Milagros Salah of attempted murder.
On October 27, 2007, according to several witnesses, 2 men reportedly shot Alberto Cardoso. However, Judge Puyén y Hermanos accused him of attempted homicide. Analia Tolava denounced that her husband was tortured and extorted.
After that long week of torture, he was taken on 2 different days to the residual court where the judge of the Puyén Hermanos case was, and on 2 different occasions without notifying us or the lawyers. They offered him to make a statement saying what Paez had also said, that he had been hired by Milagro and that he had received orders from Milagro.
In total, 7 hearings will be held, and 26 witnesses will declare. The sentence will be known on December 19 of this year.
We hope to unveil what happened so long ago, in 2007 on the one hand, and on the other hand to evidence this judicial persecution that exists against Milagro in the province of Jujuy, after the swearing in of Gerardo Morales in government, who started cases that kept her in prison. Let's remember that the first case that was initiated and for which she was deprived of her freedom was a social protest.
Milagros Salah has spent 1,026 days arbitrarily deprived of her freedom, and so far, there is no sentence against her.
Sumo wrestlers in Venezuela are fighting to be considered among the elite of this Asian-Japanese sport. Sumo premiered in Venezuela in 2012 with the first national championship in the city of Maracay, but wrestlers keep fighting to popularize the sport. They actually perform combats in popular neighborhoods as they believe sumo is also a tool for social work. El Salvador's Ministry of Education is putting on a school farms festival. By doing so, it hopes to instill and develop an entrepreneurial spirit in students of all ages.
The Orchids and School Farms initiative aims to develop skills in agricultural production.
School children can now enjoy a healthy food menu in their schools. You can see children enjoying various natural juices made from spinach, lime, or even cucumber. This is something they didn't have before.
The festival took place in San Salvador's Libertad Park. Students from 4 different departments took part. Across the country, there are nearly 2,000 orchids in 21 school farms that benefit over 160,000 students.
We are eating healthier produce. When we make our own food, we know it's clean and it has no pesticides, unlike buying stuff from the supermarket.
Using agroecological techniques, young people are taught how to protect the environment and how to stay healthy. Environmental organizations provide guidance for students by teaching them how to plant native seeds and reduce the use of toxic chemicals for clean production.
This shows us that this can be done. We need to teach young generations to grow their own crops and do it in a sustainable manner. We need to teach them to protect the environment.
Investment in these orchids near $1.6 million and has spread good agricultural practices across communities.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
When human rights are left in the background, people organize and mobilize themselves to overcome their problems. Telesur Documentaries presents a crisis that is not just economic, but is also political, social, and even spiritual. When the droplets turn into rain. Sunday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. A gunman has killed 12 people, including a deputy sheriff, when he opened fire in a bar in Southern California. The bar was hosting a college country music night on Wednesday when the shooter barged in. He reportedly used smoke grenades and a semi-automatic weapon. The gunman has been shot dead by police.
We dropped and we heard the gunshots
a lot of gunshots. I don't even, a lot. And I was just laying there. So, you know, the shots rang out and we were hiding under the stools, that there was like a little smoke bomb. My friend actually saw it because I was under the stools with her, and that she saw the smoke bomb like start to go off, and we just heard everyone say, run. Booked it out to the parking lot, tried to get near my car.
Pro-government forces in Yemen have advanced in their battle to control the city of Hodeida. According to hospital sources, dozens of combatants were killed as pro-government forces closed in on the center of the rebel-held port city. Government forces backed by Saudi-led coalition have attacked Hodeida over the last week. The city is the last rebel stronghold on the Red Sea coast and port for entrance of humanitarian help. Former CIA employee Edward Snowden says an Israeli cybersecurity firm could be involved in the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Snowden claimed that the NSO group had sold Saudi Arabia software that was used to bug the phone of one of Khashoggi's friends. Khashoggi was murdered in the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. The investigation into his death is still underway.
Building bombs, he's not, you know, developing plots. He's writing things people don't like. And he went into the Turkish consulate. He was immediately strangled. We still don't know what happened to his body, but we know the Saudis sent 15 people into their consulates, killed this man, and they did it. How did this get planned? How did this come together? How did they know where he was going when he was going? Obviously, they knew he was going to come to the consulate because he had to make an appointment. They knew he had to walk in, and when he set foot through that doorway, he was already doomed, right? But how did they know what his plans and intentions were? How did they decide that he was someone they needed to act against, who was worth the risk? And the reality is they had bugged one of his few friends and contacts using software created by an Israeli company.
Health fears are reignited as a thick blanket of smog covers India's capital after Diwali celebrations. When millions of residents burst firecrackers and lit oil lamps during the religious festival of lights. The smoke increased already high levels of air pollution in New Delhi. The city's toxic air, classified by the authorities as hazardous, was over 15 times the World Health Organization's recommended limit. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.